Season 16 of The Simpsons is definitely the season of Patty and Selma. We previously had an episode, was it the very previous episode? I think it was, that focused on Patty. And now we have one that focuses on Selma, and both of these episodes are quite pivotal for their characters. This one had some awkward moments, definitely, but ultimately I thought it was a pretty gripping and really compelling episode. This is the 12th episode of the 16th season of The Simpsons, directed by David Silverman and Lance Kramer. And Selma has a hot flush or a hot flash. Turns out she's going through the menopause, and she gets upset about the fact that she never had the chance to have children. So she decides to adopt a child from China, and the whole of the Simpsons family have to go with her for one reason or another. I won't spoil too much, but the majority of this episode is set in China. And yes, there are stereotypes, but usually it's the Simpsons family, by which I mean Homer, who comes off worse. So whenever a character thinks of a stereotype, usually they're the one who comes off worse as a result of that, kind of showing that actually you're giving us stereotypes, we're going to throw it back in your face. And I think it's a clever way of doing it, so it's not too bad. Very well animated, of course. I always love it when the Simpsons go to a different location, or they're just somewhere other than Springfield, because it gives us different backdrops, different characters. There's always something to look at, and that's certainly the case here. That being said, a lot of the scenes in Springfield were quite funny. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the word menopause? I mean, it's terrible, it's appalling, but it just made me laugh. It's so bad that I found it amusing. And what Homer did to Selma for the benefit of the other patients, really thoroughly enjoyed that as well. And the scenes in China, as I said, were perfectly interesting, or perfectly fine and quite interesting. And I won't say exactly what happens when they're out there, but certainly Selma was very likeable. I've mentioned before, it's no secret, I'm not the biggest fan of Patty and Selma as characters. I don't love them, but it's rare that I'm on their side. But actually on this one, I wanted the best for Selma. I wanted her to just finally have some happiness in her life. Whether or not things, work out, I won't say. But I will say that the narrative progressed in a way that was quite gripping, and as soon as it seemed like one thing was going to happen, something else came along and, mixed things up. So it was always quite unclear what was going to happen, and I rather enjoyed the narrative. I thought it was quite good. Also, I think just one last thing I want to mention. Oh, well, first of all, the Chinese Bart character. There was something about the way that character was animated that I didn't like, that didn't sit right with me. But I think they had to do that to emphasize the point they were trying to make, I think. But the other thing I was going to mention is there's this amazing bit of, a combination of sound effects and voice acting, and it's the bit when Homer falls down the chairs. You'll know which bit I mean, and Dan Castellaneta, just the timing. Homer is shouting USA, and the timing of the fall, the way his voice changes, it actually sounds like he's falling, and then the sound effects of the chairs themselves falling. It was just so effective and so beautiful, and it lasted, 3 seconds? But it was just so wonderful to listen to that I really thoroughly enjoyed it, so I was very impressed with that. Definitely. There was a very disgusting moment in this episode, actually, with Mr. Burns' lungs. I won't say any more than that, but you'll know which bit I mean. It's not really important to the narrative as such, but yeah, I found that bit to be a little bit awkward. Awkward, but enjoyable. In all, I really, really liked this episode. No, this isn't directly after the Paddy episode, because I've literally just watched another episode before this one, slightly losing my mind. But certainly two very close together. But either way, I have to say this is one of my favourite episodes in a long time. I don't know if it'd be one of my favourite episodes overall, but because there were just so many little things here and there that I thought worked fantastically, Goo Goo Gai Pan is pretty wonderful.